The Tolkien Road, Episode 110, The Lord of the Rings, Shelob's Lair. Alright, go ahead. The Tolkien Road, 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 Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, a long walk through Middle-earth. On this episode, we continue our journey through The Lord of the Rings with Book 4, Chapter 9, Shelob's Lair. Before we get started, why not hop on over to iTunes and leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback. It's a great way to show your support for the show and takes less than a minute. Or you can stop by TolkienRoad.com, learn about previous episodes, and say hey. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/TolkienRoad, and you can find us on Twitter via @TolkienRoad. Thanks for listening, and enjoy. Hello everyone, welcome to the Tolkien Road, episode 110, Lord of the Rings, Book 4, Chapter 9, Shelob's Lair.
Lair.
What's going on, Greta?
Not a whole lot.
Good, right on.
Just trying really hard not to get freaked out by all the scary descriptions of the giant spider in this chapter.
Yeah, pretty freaktastic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty, give me a dragon any day over a giant spider, personally.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, I know. There's lots of things I would take over a giant spider. Lots of things.
Yeah, well, I don't even like little spiders, so, this is, it's interesting. It's a very interesting chapter, and I have an interesting thought to share in just a moment. But let me first say special thanks to our executive producer, Dr. William Hutton, as well as our other generous patrons.
Yes.
If you'd like to contribute to the Tolkien Road, visit us on Patreon at TolkienRoad.com. Secret word. So nobody guessed the secret word last week, you were saying.
Nobody even tried.
Yeah, we must have been a pretty good one. It's been a pretty good one.
Yeah, it must have been.
So we're going to continue with it this week.
Yeah.
And we'll see if anybody can guess it. So, if you had an idea, you might listen in this week and say, what could it possibly be?
Compare this episode with last week's episode and see if there's a particular word that's mentioned in both more often than you would expect it to be. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
Definitely do it.
Interesting.
Should we give a hint? Should we give a hint of any kind, do you think? Or are the secret words enough?
I don't know. What do you think?
Well,
I don't know what kind of hint we could give that wouldn't give it away, honestly.
Yeah, well, we'll do it this week, and if nobody guesses this week, then maybe we'll give a hint next week.
Okay.
Alright.
It's a big game tonight.
Yeah, indeed.
Game 3.
Game 3 of...
Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh, right. Hockey.
Preds and Penguins.
Yes.
Coming to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And we are avoiding downtown like we would avoid Shelob's Lair today.
Good analogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought so.
Because of the giant spider convention they're having.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Right, exactly. It has nothing to do with the thousands and thousands of people that they're expecting in downtown Nashville today.
No, we like people.
Right, we like people. Therefore,
people
it obviously has everything to do with
people equal
giant
good,
spider.
Giant spiders equal bad.
Yeah.
Spiders. So, I think Tolkien must have had some kind of... This is another area in which I
is this your interesting
empathize
thought?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is another area in which I empathize and kind of... I don't know, I feel like Tolkien is just my homeboy. Because like we see... Yeah, across time and space.
He's your kindred spirit.
Yes. Because I think he was kind of an arachnophobe too.
Oh, really?
You know? Well, if you think about it, and I'm pretty sure this is in one of his letters somewhere. I think he talks about he feels like he has some kind of like ancient, like early childhood memory of like, because he lived in South Africa, and they got some freaky animals down in South Africa.
I didn't know he lived in South Africa.
Yeah, he lived in South Africa when he was really young.
Oh.
And so I think he speculates that, or he has some kind of like vague memory of like a big, hairy, nasty spider when he was like a little kid.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, and it just really like...
that would be traumatizing.
Yeah, traumatizing. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
But anyway... I'll have to find the letter, or maybe it was in the biography of him or something like that. But what's interesting is you think about all of his major Middle-earth works. Mm-hmm. They all have giant spiders in them, right? Shelob in Lord of the Rings, Ungoliant in the Silmarillion, and then you have the Mirkwood with all the giant spiders in the Hobbit. Yeah.
Oh.
So.
Coincidence?
I think not.
I think not.
I think he had kind of a... I think it was probably hard for him, as it really is for me, to imagine something more just like kind of just like uber creepy and disgusting and foul and horrifying than a giant spider.
Yeah.
No,
I totally agree.
Like
maybe a giant snake.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, not for me. Like I'm not saying I'd like to, have a giant snake lying around or anything like that, but I react to spiders in a much more like,
I know,
just like, terrified way. Like it's like an initial reaction, It's like almost involuntary.
It's fight or flight,
It's a fight or flight reaction, right?
Yeah. You won't even look at the happy face spider in the bug book that our kids want to show you.
Like, look, that's more like principal teaching our kids. Like, when somebody tells you they don't want to look at something,
but it's a happy face
don't
spider.
Force them to look at something. It's just like basic human etiquette, right? I'd prefer not to look at that. Oh, but you got to look at it. You'll think it's... I prefer not to look at that. Mm-hmm. Oh, but come on. You want to... I would prefer not to look at that. What part of this don't you understand?
Right. Yeah. But you see where they're coming from. Is that...
I don't care.
Funny. It's a funny-looking spider. It doesn't even really look like a spider.
I get that.
It looks like it has two happy faces on its body.
I get that, but I don't care. There's other things I can be looking at in my life.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm happy that you think it's funny. But I don't need to see it.
We saw it on the side of a big... You know how U-Haul...
Oh, I hate that. And so is that the picture? I've seen that picture.
Have you seen that picture?
Yeah, I've seen those
it's
U-Hauls.
like a green spider with like this... It looks like it has a smiley face.
I wonder how many car accidents have been caused.
Oh, really? I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Huh.
I sometimes wonder if, like when you hear about like people getting into mysterious car accidents and like no one's really sure what happened.
Yes, I was just going to say that. I actually read somewhere, not super recently, but not too long ago, that they suspect that in like these one car accidents that they can't really figure out what happened, that bugs are to blame for most of them. Yeah. Like a bug appears and
somebody.
You're like, and they just kind of drive off the road into a tree.
Yeah, and a crash happens and the bug just kind of goes walking off like doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
See you later.
No, I remember reading that. I think you're right. I think bugs and probably even spiders are to blame for more accidents than we can know.
All right.
Anyway, let's just get this over with as quickly as possible.
All right, we gotta hit that puck right into the goal. We just
gotta go.
We gotta go.
Right.
All right. So, Book 4, Chapter 9, Shelob's Lair. Yeah, this is this is it's action-packed, and it's a pretty, kind of hellish vision, in my opinion.
Yes, it is.
Again, it's a very, like, natural kind of fear. This is not, like, there's a supernatural level to this, because we know from Shelob's background that she's descendant from Ungoliant, who is a supernatural kind of being, who was just happened to be embodied in a giant spider form.
Right.
But there's just a very like natural, like almost like feeling like you're just a little animal.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this case,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You're just the prey, and that's terrifying. Anyway.
Totally.
So, not one you may not want to be listening to this one with the young children around. So.
Yeah, especially if they're scared of spiders.
Yeah, seriously.
All
right, so Book 4, Chapter 9.
Well, we have a couple of correspondences.
Why don't we save all the correspondence to the end?
Even the ones that have to do with the
chapter? I was thinking, let's just save it all till the end.
Okay.
Unless you're just think something that we...
changing your mind willy-nilly.
I'm just trying to find what works best.
Along for the ride.
Just trying to find what works best.
Okay.
I mean, if you feel like there's something that really deserves to be said before the episode...
Well, now you put me in an awkward spot, because if I share one person's, they'll be like, well, why wasn't mine really worth reading at the beginning?
You're right.
Greta.
You're right. Okay, well, we won't do that.
No.
So, trying to set you up for the fall.
Nice try.
Yeah. All right.
I called your bluff.
So they've climbed, up the side of the mountains there, the steep climb, the stairs of Cirith
Yep.
And they've arrived at, following Gollum at this kind of like tunnel and they're getting close. They know they're getting close to Cirith to the tower, right? Mm-hmm. At the top of the mountains. Mm-hmm. And they arrive at this place, and Gollum's like, follow me in. And Sam sniffs the air as they're walking into this place. First of all, it's really dark. It's like unimaginably dark.
Right, they compare it to like the darkness, like Moria.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Where like there's no sunlight anywhere nearby, right? Mm-hmm. And not only is it dark, but it smells really bad.
Yeah. Really
bad. Ugh, that smell. It's getting stronger and stronger. Presently they were under the shadow, and there in the midst of it they saw the opening of a cave. This is the way in. This is the entrance to the tunnel. He did not speak its name, Toruk Ungol, Shelob's lair. Out of it came a stench, not the sickly odor of decay in the meads of Morgul, but a foul reek, as if filth unnameable were piled and hoarded in the dark within. I feel like whenever you do, like in movies and that kind of thing, when you see this, like the worst, like some of the worst things to see. Like sometimes you'll see this in movies about like serial killers, or like movies about like TV, like on Breaking Bad. There was that house they went to where all the junkies went to like shoot up and just like hang out, and you just remember like Walter walking into this place. He's going to find Jesse,
right?
And he walks into this place, and it's just like it's just horrible.
Disgusting,
like it's so gross, and everything's just full of it's just mounds of disgustingness everywhere. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this is horrid. And that's kind of like what they're walking into here. This is not pretty, and it doesn't smell pretty apparently. But I was really interested by the description of the darkness as well, because I don't know if you remember this from the Silmarillion, but when Ungoliant shows up, it kind of talks about how this like darkness, this impenetrable darkness that wasn't just like a visual darkness, but it was like a spiritual darkness,
right,
kind of like followed her everywhere.
Right.
It just like clouded everything out. And it seems to be the case here. Although at first it's not, Tolkien doesn't as strongly make that case, but you get the sense that she is indeed her her mother's daughter.
Yes.
Right? Shelob is her mother's daughter in this way. So they wander into this thing, and Frodo and Sam have no idea what's going on. They're just like, the only thing they know is that this is apparently the best option they have of making it into Mordor and making it to Mount Doom with the ring.
Yeah.
And they've have really no choice but to trust Gollum, and Sam is still not as into it. Frodo is still cautiously optimistic that maybe Gollum will really help them out.
Yes.
But the further in they go to this place, the more they realize that this is probably a trap.
Yeah.
This is probably a trap of some sort.
Spot, for sure.
The first indication they have is that there's more than one passage, right? This isn't just like one passage straight through, but it seems to be there's a lot of different directions they could go.
Right.
And shortly thereafter,
like a maze.
Yeah, exactly, kind of like a maze. And then shortly thereafter, they realize that Gollum has gotten so far ahead of him they don't know where he is anymore. Right. Which way has Gollum gone? Panted Sam. And why didn't he wait? Sméagol, said Frodo, trying to call. Sméagol! But his voice croaked, and the name fell dead almost as it left his lips. There was no answer, not an echo, not even a tremor of the air. He's really gone this time, I fancy, muttered Sam. I guess this is just exactly where he meant to bring us. Gollum, if ever I lay hands on you again, you'll be sorry for it. But they continue on, and eventually they realize it's eventually they wander further in and they start to hear this really horrendous noise, right? You want to read that a little bit further down here? They had not gone more than a few yards.
They had not gone more than a few yards when from behind them came a sound, startling and horrible in the heavy padded silence, a gurgling, bubbling noise, and a long, venomous hiss. They wheeled around, but nothing could be seen. Still as stones they stood, staring, waiting, for they did not know what.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be, like, first of all, they kind of sense that something's watching them. They all of a sudden, they get this sense.
Yeah.
You know? And that's...
I've had that sense before.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's an animalistic sense.
It probably is, but it's, like, even worse in this particular situation, right? Because they can't see a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. All they know is they get the sense and then they hear this noise. It's like gurgling, gosh, it's nasty to think about, right?
Yes, gross.
Horrendous,
Yes.
I mean, I would be freaking out right now.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I hope I would be freaking out, but I hope I'd at least have the intellectual kind of will to keep my head about me and focus and think on my feet, but gosh, just this is just got to be utterly terrifying for them in the moment.
Absolutely.
Sam realizes it's a trap, and then it says, then as he stood, darkness about him and a blackness of despair and anger in his heart, it seemed to him that he saw a light in his mind, almost unbearably bright at first, as a sun ray to the eyes of one long hidden in a windowless pit. Then the light became color, green, gold, silver, white. Far off, as in a little picture drawn by elven fingers, he saw the Lady Galadriel standing on the grass, and Lorien, and gifts were in her hands. And you, ring-bearer, he heard her say, remote but clear, for you I have prepared this. So he suddenly remembers the Phial, Galadriel's, the Phial of Galadriel. And he encourages Frodo to take it out, the star glass, in other words. So they remember it and they take it out. For a moment it glimmered, faint as a rising star struggling in heavy earthward mists, and then as its power waxed and hope grew in Frodo's mind, it began to burn, and kindled to a silver flame, a minute heart of dazzling light, as though Arundel had himself come down from the high sunset pass with the last Silmaril upon his brow. The darkness receded from it, until it seemed to shine in the center of a globe of airy crystal, and the hand that held it sparkled with white fire. Aren't you glad, Greta, that you know who Arundel is?
I am. I was thinking that as I read this.
Yeah.
It's I feel so smart.
Because before you would have been like, who?
Yeah. Arundel and Silmaril, what is going on?
Yeah, what?
Tolkien is off his rocker. He's just lost it.
Frodo gazed in wonder at this marvelous gift that he had so long carried, not guessing its full worth and potency. Seldom had he remembered it on the road until they came to Morgul Vale, and never had he used it for fear of its revealing light. Aya Arundel Elenion an Kalima, he cried, and knew not what he had spoken, for it seemed that another voice spoke through his, clear, untroubled by the foul air of the pit. That's really fascinating.
Yes, that is. What is that? What did he say? I recognize Arendel's name, but I don't know what the other stuff is.
I didn't look that up. Let me see if I can find that.
How did you know? While you're looking for that, I wanted to share that Mary Grace sent an email where she shared a couple things about the chapter. And one of the things she shared was that she thinks that this white fire from the Phial is a form of divine intervention. And I think she might be onto something. What do you think?
Well, I think she is too.
Yes.
So go ahead. What do you think?
I totally agree. Well, we've already talked about Galadriel being a type of Marian figure, right? And so it would make sense that this Phial that she gives to Frodo would contain in it some of her, some type of divine power.
Right.
Right.
Oh, certainly. Well, I read it. I definitely read that as as a sort of divine intervention, and it's interesting because the next chapter contains another moment, probably one of my favorite moments in the entire story. In the next chapter, where we'll get to that, of course, next episode. But one of the moments in Lord of the Rings. I mean, Lord of the Rings of course, is standalone. It's just wonderful in and of itself. But there's certain moments where you almost get the sense that like Tolkien needed to write this just so he could write that one scene because it's so powerful. And but so I'm looking this up, by the way, and what Frodo says here means "Hail Arundel, brightest of stars." So, because remember, Arundel is with his ship has the Silmaril upon
the bow,
the prow of his ship,
yeah.
And it, it's basically the star. That's the star that they capture that Galadriel's mirror captures the starlight from, and then she puts the water into the Phial.
Right, yes.
So, it would seem to be, it would seem to be like the light of, this is literally the light of Arundel, right? That is shining here. Now, who inspired Frodo to say this? I mean, I don't know, right? I think a case could be made that maybe it was Galadriel. Case could be made that it was Varda, right? That it was Elbereth, the Queen of the Stars. That maybe it was Arundel.
Yeah.
And it could very well have simply been Iluvatar, right?
Right. Yeah.
From on high. So, but this, I love these little points of mystery. These little moments of divine inspiration. It reminds me. I was looking at I have this huge list of like different Tolkien quotes that are fascinating to me that I want to, at some point I want to talk about them or write about them. One of them, he talks about how, in Tolkien, a couple different places, he talks about like, oh, well, the Lord of the Rings is really about this, and you're like, well, he'll say it's not really about this, it's really about this, and you're like, okay, well, you just said it was about this over here, but but it was about a lot of things. But at one point, he makes it very clear. Where is it? Let's see. Yeah, of course I'm not going to be able to find it.
It's quite a list.
Yeah, well, he wrote a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it was actually further up here. Let's see.
That's okay. Maybe I'll just sing for our audience.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. It's the second one here.
Oh.
In my story, I do not deal in absolute evil. I do not think there is such a thing, since that is zero. In The Lord of the Rings, the conflict is not basically about freedom, though that is naturally involved. It is about God and his sole right to divine honor. So it's interesting that he says this story is about God, right?
Yeah.
Because God really doesn't come up in the story directly.
No, you're right. He doesn't.
But underlying all of that, according to Tolkien, is that it's a story about God. So it's interesting to think that maybe that could have simply been Iluvatar's direct inspiration to Frodo.
You're right. Good call.
Anyway.
Stuff.
By the way, that's letter 243 in the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien.
Good to know.
He's the guy that wrote Lord of the Rings, by the way.
Right.
Just FYI, in case you weren't aware.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Actually,
who is this guy that you keep talking about? Who is this R.J.J. Tolkien guy? Good old R.J. All right. So.
Moving on.
So they shine this light, and we start to get the sense that this is Shelob, who is kind of stalking them right now. And
she has lots of eyes.
Yes, she does. I mean, that's another thing that freaks me out about spiders.
So
all the little bulby eyes, that don't have lids or anything like that. They're just looking at you all the time.
Yes.
It's just like, could you please get some eyelids and fewer eyes?
Yeah. You have to talk to God about that.
You know what's funny about me though is I rarely kill spiders.
It's because you're too scared to.
No, it's not because I'm too scared to. It's because I know they're good. Like, they kill insects.
Certain one of them.
Most of them are. Most of them don't bother human beings unless they're bothered, and even then they're not poisonous, right? Now there are a few, like there are brown recluses in our area that can mess you up, but even then they don't really bother you unless unless one happens to be like living in something you stick your hand or your foot into,
Right.
Anyway, just a little side note for you.
Now we all know you don't kill spiders, even though you're definitely afraid of them.
Unless I got to.
Yeah.
It says, but other potencies there are in Middle-earth, powers of night, and they are old and strong. And she that walked in the darkness had heard the elves cry that cry far back in the deeps of time, and she had not heeded it, and it did not daunt her now. Even as Frodo spoke, he felt a great malice bent upon him, and a deadly regard considering him. Not far down the tunnel between them and the opening where they had reeled and stumbled, he was aware of eyes growing visible, 2 great clusters of many-windowed eyes. The coming menace was unmasked at last. The radiance of the star-glass was broken and thrown back from their 1,000 facets, but behind the glitter a pale, deadly fire began steadily to glow within, a flame kindled in some deep pit of evil thought. Monstrous and abominable eyes there were, bestial and yet filled with purpose and with hideous delight, gloating over their prey trapped beyond all hope of escape. She's coming at him, she's coming for him, and they know this. At first, Frodo decides that he's going to stand fast, and he says to Sam, running is no use. The eyes come near, and Frodo calls out Galadriel, and lifts up the Phial, the Phial, whatever. And the eyes halt, and it's almost like they doubt, right? It's almost like she doubts what's going on, and
like
Frodo's
she's confused,
right? Or she's like, "What's going? Why did he call that name?
Well, that's interesting though, because it says that first thing, the Arendelle, that Arendelle. I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm not gonna say it. But the first thing that Frodo calls out doesn't bother her, right? She's like, yeah, it's like she had heard that before, didn't heed it did not daunt her. But now he calls out the name Galadriel, and that does daunt her. You know what I mean? It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
Did I misread that she wasn't bothered by the first thing he said?
No, you got that right. I guess it says that she had heard the elves call that,
right, and it hadn't bothered her.
And it hadn't bothered her.
Like, whatever. Yeah. But now it's like someone's thrown a puck in her eye. Yeah. Right. So it's just strange to me that Galadriel, the name Galadriel, would have so much more power over her. Yeah. Than the name of Arendelle would.
Well, and I think it's more like it's almost more what happens after this, because she pauses, and it's interesting how Frodo's own emotion is tied to the light and the brightness of the light, because it says, then Frodo's heart flamed within him. When she kind of doubts, when she stops and hesitates, Frodo's heart starts to flame up, and without thinking what he did, whether it was folly or despair or courage, he took the Phial in his left hand, and with his right hand drew his sword. Sting flashed out, and the sharp elven blade sparkled in the silver light, but at its edges a blue fire flicked. Then holding the star aloft and the bright sword advanced. Frodo, Hobbit of the Shire, walked steadily down to meet the eyes. So the light approaches, and she's just kind of horrified by the light. Right? She can't stand the light. No brightness so deadly had ever afflicted her eyes before. From sun and moon and star they had been safe underground, but now a star had descended into the very earth. Still it approached, and the eyes began to quail. One by one they all went dark. They turned away, and a great bulk, beyond the light's reach, heaved its huge shadow in between. They were gone. I mean, we've all been in situations where you're just like in total darkness, and then like a really bright light comes on,
It can give you a headache.
And it can, and especially if it's kind of still dark around you.
Yeah.
Your eyes need time to adjust to it. Yeah, and apparently this is like, for her, Frodo is apparently not bothered by the light, right? By the brightness of the light. For her, it's like overwhelming.
She's so evil,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So there's again, and this is the light of the Silmaril, right? So there's not just a material quality to this light, or physical quality to this light. It's a spirit. There's a spiritual, just like there's a spiritual darkness that attends the physical darkness of her lair. There is a spiritual light that comes with the physical light that she sees. Right.
Yes.
And that's
really what gets
in large part what's overwhelming to her.
Right.
So she backs down and eventually just runs away.
Yeah.
Right? She's like, enough of this. And Sam...
She runs away, right?
Yeah, and Sam says, "Stars and glory, but the elves would make a song of that if ever they heard of it. And may I live to tell them and hear them sing. But don't go on, master, don't go down to that den. Now's our only chance. Now let's get out of this foul hole." So they decide to run. They decide to run for it now. And they keep running. They kind of... The way becomes a little steeper and steeper. And they see an opening. But as they get closer... and they realize they actually run into some kind of barrier. Right? So it looks like they found an opening.
Yeah, the light didn't even illuminate, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The outlet was blocked with some barrier. Do you want to read that?
Yeah, the outlet was blocked with some barrier, but not of stone. Soft and a little yielding it seemed, and yet strong and impervious. Air filtered through, but not a glimmer of any light. Once more they charged and were hurled back. Holding aloft the Phial, Frodo looked, and before him he saw a grayness which the radiance of the star-glass did not pierce and did not illuminate, as if it were a shadow that being cast by no light could dissipate. Across the width and height of the tunnel a vast web was spun, orderly as the web of some huge spider, but denser woven and far greater, and each thread was as thick as rope.
Yeah, so
it's a giant web.
Right, giant web. And, many of you have probably heard how spider silk, right, spider webs, super strong for, for its size, right?
Yeah.
And, you can sometimes see this when you, when you're dusting away a web or something like that, or you run into one, the stuff just kind of, gets...
And it is kind of invisible until you're on top of it, basically. Right. Unless the light hits it a certain way.
Yeah.
They're really...
And when you see a small spider's prey, and it, like a little fly or something like that, and it's just kind of amazing how it just kind of holds on to the little strand, right? To this tiny little thread. Yes. So this is super powerful. It's kind of like the ant being able to lift, 200 times its body weight or something like that. The spider silk is super powerful for its relative size.
Yes.
And so you imagine tiny little spider, and you imagine Shelob, giant spider, and the stuff she's putting out, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay,
that much.
This is going to be hard stuff to break through.
Yes.
Sam tries with his sword. He just hacks away at it and eventually manages to break one single cord, but it's this is not going to get them through.
Right.
Fortunately, though, Frodo's blade is elvish.
Yes.
He has an elven blade, Sting. And so his, it says, the blue gleaming blade shore through them like a scythe through grass, and they leaped and writhed and then hung loose. A great rent was made. So he keeps hacking away at it, and eventually they get an opening large enough to get through and get out. And so they find themselves now in the cleft of Cirith Ungol. So this is kind of the way forward for them into the land of Mordor.
Right.
It says, "It's a dim notch in the black ridge and the horns of rock darkling in the sky on either side. A short race, a sprinter's course, and he would be through." So they're running, and it appears they might actually get through this and get away from Shelob. But it says, little do they know that she had many exits from her lair.
Right. And Sam suspects this. Yeah. Right? Frodo is almost deliriously happy at this point. He's doing the victory dance in the end zone. You know? Whereas Sam is, this is almost too good to be true, therefore it probably is. Right.
Yeah. And so, Tolkien actually pauses the narrative here and gives a little bit of a backstory on Shelob.
Right.
And I love this kind of stuff.
I know you do.
Because it gives us that sense of depth.
Right.
To the story.
And the link to
the things past,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it just talks about how, Shelob is a descendant of Ungoliant, and she actually dwelt in the mountains of Terror and Dorioth, where Beren, those are the mountains that Beren had to come through.
And Ungoliant had.
Shelob had. So her descendants had, and I think, and and I couldn't quite figure out whether saying Shelob had once dwelt there or not.
Okay.
But at the very least, Shelob is one of these giant spiders descendant from Ungoliant that dwelt in the land of, in the mountains north of Doriath. Right. Where Thingol and Melion lived, and where Beren first met Luthien. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes.
And Beren actually had to fight through this land. So what's implied is that Beren had to fight a lot of giant spiders as he came south into the land of Doriath.
Which makes him even more amazing and heroic.
Exactly. By the way, pick up your copy of Beren and Luthien if you haven't already.
Oh, that's right. It's available now, yeah.
Yeah, I actually made a video of it. It's on YouTube if you want to go look it up. And I kind of review it and tell you what's in it. So everybody should go get it. And then if you don't already have my book, you should go buy my book, Tolkien's Requiem, because it'll help you understand the story even better. But first, you should buy the Silmarillion and Beren and Luthien, because you always want to buy Tolkien's works before you buy mine.
Right.
So, go get it. All right. Public service announcement over. Back to the story.
So like a mini history here. And this is another section where I was like, oh, that's cool. I actually know what they're talking about here.
Yeah. Let's see. Far and wide, her lesser broods, bastards of the miserable mates, her own offspring, that she slew, spread from glen to glen, from the Ethel Duath to the eastern hills, to Dol Guldur and the fastnesses of Mirkwood. So it's also implied that she's related, or even the giant spiders of Mirkwood in The Hobbit are descendant from...
Right. That they're all part of the same family tree.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and she, she existed before Sauron, right? She was here in this land before Sauron was. And
that makes her really old.
Yes, she is very old.
Yeah.
So, like going back to the First Age, probably, right?
Right.
So Smeagol eventually meets her. Gollum meets her, and he had promised to bring her food, because apparently over time she at first she was able to feast upon like elves and men and that kind of thing who were coming over the pass into the land of Mordor. Mm-hmm. And remember, of course, Faramir hinted at the fact that there was something terrible up in this neck of the woods, right?
That's right. He begged them not to go.
Right, he begged them not to go.
Yeah.
There were kind of legends about what might inhabit this area.
Right.
And so over time, men and elves had stopped coming through this area. It's been a long time. And so really, all she had to feast on anymore was orcs, right? Which, orcs not as
they're
tasty.
Tough.
Not as tasty.
Yeah, they're a little gamey and...
Yeah. So he promises that he's going to bring her, and it actually says that he kind of like worships her.
Yeah,
right?
because he bows before her, and which is totally creepy and gross.
Yeah, really creepy. And of course, I guess she looked at Gollum and she was like, "I'm not eating you, and not even I'm eating you." Yeah,
I'm not that desperate.
That's right. So long now she had been hungry, lurking in her den, while the power of Sauron grew, and light and living things forsook his borders. And the city in the valley was dead, and no elf or man came near, only the unhappy orcs, poor food and weary. But she must eat, and however busily they delved new winding passages from the pass and from their tower, ever she found some way to snare them. But she lusted for sweeter meat, and Gollum had brought it to her. And it turns out Gollum's whole plot this whole time is that he's hoping she'll catch Frodo, devour Frodo, and then whatever's left over, the ring will be in that pile. He'll get the ring, and then he's like, oh, and then I'll show Shelob who's worthy of being worshipped when I have the ring, right? And everybody else too. So he's not, he doesn't really worship her. He's trying to use her.
He's trying to use her to get the ring. Precious, yeah.
And then it's payback time,
Oh man, yeah. What a tangled web.
Indeed. Sauron, it talks a little bit about Sauron and his knowledge of Shelob, and he's very aware of her, and
he actually,
yeah, it's actually he's
kind of like a guard, right?
They're not in alliance or anything like that, but he
doesn't mind her.
It actually says he views her like a cat,
right?
Like his cat, right?
Yeah,
he actually takes a little bit of delight every once in a while in sending his orc soldiers through that area, knowing that some of them will get caught, and apparently likes hearing some of the stories about it, which is just, just awful.
That is totally awful.
Even for an orc, but it says, sometimes as a man may cast a dainty to his cat he calls her, but she owns him not. Sauron would send her prisoners that he had no better uses for, so he'd also send prisoners that he had, and he would have them driven to her hole and report brought back to him of the plays she made. So just, there's a little bit of a relationship between Sauron and Shelob. And
more of an acquaintance.
More of a and really he kind of views her as his like wild pet,
right? Right. Of course, Shelob would never accept that title,
right?
Right, because she's owned by no man,
right?
But yeah.
Well, but it says, but she owns him not, which was really interesting. So, I wasn't exactly sure what that meant.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
It actually says he calls her his cat, though.
But she owns him not.
Right.
You'd think it would say, but he owns her not.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a typo.
I don't know. Well, they haven't fixed it yet. So.
Yeah.
All these years.
All these years.
All right. So anyway, little aside on the history of Shelob, and back to the story of Frodo and Sam trying to get away. We get this description of what she looks like in the visible light, right? After not really being able to see her other than her eyes in the cave.
Can we please not read it, please?
Well, I mean, it's just they the film and she actually doesn't show up in Two Towers. She shows up in Return of the King, but they do they do a really great job of creating her, according to the description in the. In the movie. According to in the movie they do a good job of creating her according to the description in the book, in my opinion. But yeah, she's just nasty. And big, and that's one of the creepiest things to me is just the way that like spiders move.
Yes.
Just the 8 legs, and insects are gross enough with their 6 legs. And then you get...
Right, but this one is even worse because she's like bloated and fat, and she's like smells bad.
It actually says her legs creak as she moves, but she's moving fast,
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, so they had put the Phial away as they were walking because they didn't want to be seen by the orcs and...
Well, Frodo had handed it to Sam.
Yeah.
Right? Because he had handed it to Sam when he was going to use his sword. Yeah. And so Sam has it now, but he and Frodo have gotten separated.
Right.
Right?
And Sam sees her going for Frodo.
Right. Which he can see because he has the Phial.
And another interesting little note, I want to mention this before we move on. Apparently, it says that most like a spider she was, but huger than the great hunting beasts. So it's almost like they're not really spiders. They're like, this is just the form that she happens to. Because again, Ungoliant was some kind of supernatural being that took the form of a spider at some point.
Right.
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 And so they're not really natural spiders, right? Yeah. They're not just overgrown natural spiders. These are intelligent, like spiritually intelligent creatures, right? Right. With intellects like human beings have intellects, right? So, it's interesting. It was just interesting to me that it said most like a spider she was instead of a spider she was.
Most like a spider.
Most like a spider.
Right.
So she has a personality. She has a knowledge. She's not just a beast per se. Even though she's very beastly, she's not a beast per se, right?
Wait, she's not. I thought she wasn't like. Oh, most I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, a fine distinction, but one I felt like was important to make. So just as Sam is trying to warn Frodo that she's coming for him, Gollum jumps up on him and tries to strangle him.
Yeah.
And Gollum, in typical evil, stupid evil villain fashion, is like, well, it looks like I've won before he's really won, and starts talking about how awesome he is, and then Sam gets the best of him, right?
Yep. Yeah. He counted his chickens before they hatched.
Right.
Yes.
So
maybe he counted his pucks before they landed in the gold.
Good one.
Yeah.
Good one.
That's an original right there.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking how the strength of that very thin spider web material, the silk, the spider's web. How there seems to be there's kind of an analogy there to the smallness of the puck and the way it shoots into the goal when you're trying to watch it on TV or something like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but how do the goalies block that thing? Yeah.
I know. It's so small and it moves so fast. It must be heavy. Isn't it? Well, isn't it like made of like lead or something?
And the goals are really small too. Compared, like the guy stands in front of it and there's like barely any opening for it.
That's true. But that's because the puck is so small.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking that. Sting does a pretty good job of getting through the cobweb and protecting Sam and Frodo in this chapter. But I was thinking that a puck probably could have been used as a pretty good weapon too. Mm-hmm. Like if you just shot a puck at that cobweb, I bet it would have not been able to hold it.
I don't know about that, Greta. I mean, the net in the back of the goal kind of catches the puck and stops it.
You're right.
So.
Well, maybe if you threw it with superhuman strength.
Better luck next time.
Oh, well.
Yeah, so Sam and Gollum wrestle, and eventually Sam gets the upper hand, and he actually throws himself over onto Gollum. It says Gollum fell over with Sam on top, and he received the weight of the sturdy hobbit in his stomach. A sharp hiss came out of him, and for a second his hand upon Sam's throat loosened, but his fingers still gripped the sword hand. Sam tore himself forward and away and stood up, and then quickly he wheeled away to his right, pivoted on the wrist held by Gollum. Laying hold of the staff with his left hand, Sam swung it up, and down it came with a whistling crack on Gollum's outstretched arm, just below the elbow.
Go Sam.
Yeah.
Go Sam.
So Gollum slithers off, and then Sam turns to find Frodo, and it says he spun around and rushed wildly up the path, calling and calling his master's name. He was too late. So far, Gollum's plot had succeeded.
So far.
Yeah, so that's the cliffhanger
so
of this
far,
chapter.
So bad.
So, glad that chapter's over.
I was just going to say the same thing. Glad we're done with that. I don't even think I'm going to read our correspondence this week. I'm just done. I don't want to talk about Shelob anymore.
Too bad.
Sorry, guys.
Haiku time.
I love you, but... Oh, okay. No, you don't want me to read the notes?
Huh?
You told me correspondence.
Well, we can do correspondence as we do haiku.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Who's going first? You go first. I went first last time.
Fine.
Okay. Let's rock it. Let's go. Here you go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 syllables in haiku.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 syllables in haiku. I was trying to do my Shelob voice.
Oh, yeah, Shelob doesn't really talk.
Well, I was doing pretty good until you made that funny face at me.
Okay. I guess you were. All right. Haiku time. So who's going first? Rock, paper, scissors.
I guess we... Yeah, let's do paper, rock, scissors.
Wait, I thought it was rock, paper, scissors.
That's it. How about scissors, rock, paper?
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
I win. You go first.
All right. In dreadful darkness, for this beast old and foul, a holy ancient light.
Ooh, I like that. I like the juxtaposition of foul and holy. Mm-hmm. And then ancient and old. It's good. It's real good.
Right on.
Well done. High five.
Party on.
Party on, John. Alright, here's mine. Of stars and glory, elves would sing. Should feel and sting, salvation bring.
Wow. Very, very rhymey.
It is very rhymey. I like to rhyme.
Yeah.
Then we know this is true. Because it rhymes.
We know this is true because it rhymes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. That was good.
Yeah.
Read it again for me.
Okay. Of stars and glory, elves would sing. Should feel and sting, salvation bring.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right on. Good stuff.
Good stuff. Right back at you, Johnny.
All right, what do we got?
Let's see how our listeners did. Well, we have two from Mary Grace, super friend Mary Grace. And, speaking of pucks, Mary Grace's little, picture on her Google Gmail account or whatever is the Predators. The Predators.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool. And I just want to say for the record, Mary Grace is not a bandwagon hopper because she's had the Preds thing for her little picture for a while.
Yeah, not like us who didn't even totally know anything about hockey until we watched the first game of the championship.
Right. Yeah.
Of the Stanley Cup.
And they were like, what's going on? This is so weird. Yeah. Why are they hitting and trying to kill each other?
Was that a home run or a touchdown?
Why is everybody cheering?
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear about the catfish?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently it was a Predators fan that did it.
That's the thing. Is he throws a catfish when they score.
That's a thing?
Yeah. He does. That's his thing.
Oh, does he do it? He just travels around the country with the Predators and does it at every game?
I don't know if he does it at other people's places, but I think he went to...
He went to Pittsburgh especially just to do that?
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
It was a dead catfish, right?
I think so, yeah.
That's so funny.
I don't think he went and fished it out of the river in the middle of the game and threw it. Maybe he had it in a cooler, I don't know.
Well, how... I wonder, so he's been doing this at all the playoff games? Is that the deal?
I don't know.
He's been getting away with it? Because it looked like he was arrested. Or maybe he was just escorted out of the
I don't know if he was arrested.
stadium.
I think he was charged with something, and then they were and then people were like, really? You guys are stupid. And,
well, I wonder how he got it up there, because, the glass, or, the plexiglass, or plexiglass that's around the ice is pretty tall.
True.
So he must have thrown it.
He's probably sitting up higher and threw it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It smells bad. Okay, anyway.
On to Haiku.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Alright, so Mary Grace, she says hello to the courageous and gallant co-hosts of the Tolkien Road.
Who's that?
Mary Grace.
Who are the courageous and gallant
That's me.
co-hosts?
Courageous and gallant co-hosts. That's me.
Oh, okay. You're both co-hosts?
I'm both of them.
Right on.
Yes, both and.
Hey, Mary Grace, what's up?
Mary Grace, she says, in this chapter, I particularly enjoy Tolkien's descriptions of Shelob. I'm glad somebody did.
Yeah.
And the old and strong powers of Mordor. It is something that makes you shiver with disgust and loathing, but also piques your curiosity just a little bit. It makes you wonder what else is cowering in the black holes of Mordor.
No, I completely agree, actually. It's not like I like it for any kind of beautiful quality, but at the same time, Tolkien tells a compelling story partly because his vision of evil is so compelling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fruits of evil, right, are so compelling, and that's one of the things he does well. So I totally get where she's coming from. She's not saying that she's like, oh, I just love these horrible descriptions and they're so beautiful and wonderful. She's saying that it's just well told, it's well described, and I completely agree with that.
I do too. Yes, it does make you shiver with disgust.
And that's one of the things I love about the way he tells stories. Is you're like, what else is lurking in all these different places?
Yeah,
just throughout this world. Anyway,
right on,
Mary Grace.
Good stuff. All right, so here's her haiku. She has two. I'll read the first one. You read the second.
Very well.
Long has it brooded, with sickening, purposeful hate and malice. Yes, sickening and purposeful. Ugh. Well described.
Mm-hmm.
And here's her second one.
In the depths of despair shines the light of Galadriel. Lux Spei. Nice. The light of hope.
Yes, looks. I think it's looks.
Lux
Yes.
Spei.
Good job. Thank you, Mary Grace.
Thanks, Mary Grace.
Always wonderful hearing from you. And go Preds. All right. Here we have another one from Gregory Simonson.
What's up, Gregory?
He says, Hail, Lord and Lady of the Haiku Drum. Hope you are well. What follows is my submission. Here is his haiku. Up the straight stair and winding stair, now the tunnel. But she is coming. Dun dun dun!
Oh, man.
Get your pucks ready, people. She's coming.
Yeah, it's after you have to climb. Yeah, it's funny for me, and I told you last week how I really hate steep things. I hate inclines.
Yeah.
So it's like my two chief phobias.
Spears, like, combined.
Yeah, and then up the steep climb, way up the steep
ladder,
climb.
Yeah.
And then into the giant spider's lair.
Horrible. Totally horrible. Unimaginably horrible. Gregory says, though that doesn't do the chapter justice by a long road, the whole incident with Shelob is, I imagine, eagerly anticipated by Tolkien fans. I can't recall, at the moment, another episode in fantasy literature of a battle with a giant spider. At least not one written so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until next time, may the stars shine upon your faces. Gregory.
Thanks,
Gregory.
Yeah, again, and not only that, but this isn't merely a battle with a giant spider, but this is some kind of like demonic.
Right. Oh, it's evil incarnate. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a devilish form of evil.
This is. I know we talked about this with Ungoliant, and I'm not sure. I feel like somewhere I've read that she was a Maya, and
she's like fallen from grace, kind of. Oh, really?
Yeah, kind of like Sauron, right?
Yeah.
And part of what happens to these evil spirits is they, at first they're able to slough off their physical form, right? Mm-hmm. But eventually, like Morgoth, it becomes so he can't. He still has a powerful, imposing physical form, but he can't take it off anymore, right? At some point,
yeah.
And I feel like the same thing happened to Ungoliant. And so, Shelob, I'm not sure if she herself was ever a Maiar, but she is descended, it would seem, from a Maiar. Right.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Crazy stuff.
So yeah, it's like, not only is this a giant spider, but it's a giant spider with it's a demonic presence,
Right, yeah.
Anyway.
As if you could make it worse.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Gregory.
Yes, thank you.
And then we have one from Amanda.
What's up, Amanda?
Kaiser. Sup. She said, hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. We did some traveling and came across one of my favorite childhood rock structures, the alligator dinosaur. I should show this to you. Maybe I'll send it to Josh and have him put it out on Twitter because it's super cool. She says, it definitely made me think of the imposing statues outside Minas Morgul, guarding and terrifying all who came. Check out this rock structure.
Oh, weird.
Isn't that totally cool and creepy?
Yeah.
And scary?
It's pretty cool.
That is really cool. I wonder where that is. Where is that, Amanda? If you can share. I've never seen that before.
Huh.
If you don't mind telling us where your travels took you, I'd love to know.
Interesting. Wow.
Very cool. I'm going to send that to Josh, and he'll tweet it out for us, I hope.
Cool.
Because I don't know how to tweet. Anyway.
You don't know how to tweet?
I'm a twit who doesn't know how to tweet. And then she says, but anyways, I have to say this is the chapter/scene that made me most mad while watching the movies. In the movies, Frodo sends Sam away, and Sam goes. That is completely against the very character of Sam. His loyalty would always win out. I realize that it's been years since I first saw the movies, but it still upsets me how badly they messed his character up here.
Oh, I agree. They
I didn't even remember that
part. It'll be interesting when we get to that part. And it's actually not. It's not until the Return of the King films that's actually in.
Two Towers doesn't go that far.
Right.
Or it stops.
But yeah, they kind of Jackson changes how this all plays out to a certain degree with Frodo and Sam.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure why he felt the need to do that, but we'll talk about that when we cross that bridge.
Okay, we'll watch the movie. Cool. Yeah. Which will be soon.
Yeah.
He says, this is the Sam who, when told that Frodo was going to Mordor alone, responded, saying, yes, you are, and I'm coming with.
Right.
Yeah. Good call, Amanda. She says, anyways, I liked this chapter more than it was presented in the movies and better than the chapter before. So I apologize for the word vomit. And now here are my haikus. Okay. Word vomit. Anyway, okay, here's her first one. Sam's right character, truer companion is none, does not turn away. Take that, PJ.
Right on.
Yeah. Preach it, Amanda.
Mm-hmm. Here's her second one. Sting, mighty elf blade. Phial of Galadriel. Arundel triumphs. Nice.
Good stuff.
Right on.
Good stuff. Thank you,
Love
Amanda.
the way the mythology plays into this chapter.
Yes, that is really cool.
The first stage mythology.
Yes. Yeah. I love how it kind of brings everything together.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Amanda. And we will have Josh tweet out your picture. And speaking of Josh, superfan Josh, he sent us 2 haiku as well.
Right on.
I will read his first one, and you can read his second one. Haiku 1 from Josh. He says, "Even now, the mariner shines through crystal glass to pierce the unlight."
Unlight. Love it.
The unlight.
That's what they used. I think the unlight was what they used in reference to Ungoliant.
Yes.
Very well done.
Very well done. A mariner, a.k.a. Arundel.
Yeah.
Arundel. Yes, good stuff, Josh.
Haiku 2 from Josh. "Come into my palace," says the spider to the fly. "Sting, do your job."
Nice. Awesome.
Right on.
I love it. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff, Josh and everyone. Thank you. We love hearing from you guys.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed we do. Any other correspondence?
That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, let's see. So we've got next episode. We've got the last chapter in Two Towers, right?
Woot.
Book 4, Chapter 10, The Choices of Master Samwise. And we need haiku by, let's see, today is Saturday as we record, so we probably need it by the 7th. Get it in by the 7th if you want to guarantee it's on the episode. And, again,
but
as
always send it in because I check it.
Right. Even if you're listening to this a year from now, send it to us. And we love hearing from everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
And, we want you to contribute, and we'll put it out on Twitter if you send it to us. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, if they send it to us a year from now?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Just tell us
which chapter it's for. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Don't
forget about our secret word, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
We need someone to
send your guesses to tolkienroadpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And so get your haiku in also to tolkienroadpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
For the next episode. And I think that's all we got. So special thanks again to our patrons. Executive producer William Hutton, as well as our other patrons, Shannon Stockbridge, Josh Sosa, Brian Orr, Margaret Lyon, Emilio Perea, Zeke Farmer, Caleb Santana, James Applegate, Douglas Underhill, Caitlin Fascista, and Matt Scarrance.
Woot woot.
We appreciate you guys.
You guys rock.
Yes, indeed you do.
Solid.
And I think that's all we got.
I think that's a wrap.
Alrighty.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll talk at you next time.
We will. Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Please remember to check out truemyths.org and tolkienroad.com for show notes and plenty of other Tolkien goodness. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, would you please leave the Tolkien Road a rating and feedback on iTunes? It's a great way to support the show and takes less than a minute. On our next episode, we'll continue our journey through The Lord of the Rings with Book 4, Chapter 10, The Choices of Master Samwise. Please send haiku or other correspondence to tolkienroadpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, the road goes ever on.